Oh, hey there. I'm Callum, a freelance graphic designer based in Amsterdam. Now, you may not know me very well, but chances are you are someone that works in the creative industry that uses Adobe Illustrator, whether that's every single day or maybe you're just starting out. Now, I've been a freelance graphic designer for 6 years and worked in the industry for over 10 years. And I pretty much built a whole career around using Adobe Illustrator, knowing how to use it, and brands want that. Brands need someone that knows how to use Adobe Illustrator. And I've worked with some serious brands like Nike, Under Armour, New Cap, Oatly, just to name a few. And I wouldn't say I'm an expert, that I know everything there is to know about Adobe Illustrator. I don't think that's possible. I think there is always so much to learn, so many new things constantly being added. I don't think anyone knows it 100%. But I kind of know enough to have succeeded in my career and work some really big brands. I've also now started to post social media tips and tricks all about Adobe Illustrator, and I've built up quite a big following. I think at the time of recording, I'm about 400,000 people across TikTok and Instagram. And the number one question I always get is, Callum, please can you compile all your Adobe Illustrator tips and tricks into one long video? Obviously those short 30-second videos are fun, but it's a little bit hard to follow sometimes. So this course is exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be about 45 minutes long of just all my best tips and tricks. So here it is, enough talk. It's going to be super casual. I'm not going to use really complicated expert language. I think anyone can follow along. So whether you're an expert or a newbie, I think there's going to be something for everyone. And we're going to cover loads of things like typography, quality of life, tools that you've been ignoring. There's going to be a wide range of things. So let's just jump straight into it. So I've got some live text here, and then I've got some beautiful title text here. I'm just going to put that in lowercase quickly. So if I want to take something from the body text by copying it, but I want to paste it into the title text, say I'm just really happy with how this font looks. So if I go to paste it, it basically takes the format of what I've copied and replaces what I'm pasting it into. And that's just really annoying because now I lose this text and I would have to manually change this text now myself, find it, change the size. It's very annoying. So if I, copy again, let's this time cut it so it makes more sense. And then when I go to paste it in by pressing Command V, Control if you're on Windows, this whole video I'm going to be talking about Mac shortcuts, but as we know, Command is Control in Windows, Option key in Mac is Alt in Windows. So yeah, that's all you need to know. So if I go to paste something in, but this time, if I hold the Option key as well, it now keeps the format of what I'm pasting into. Really handy, super useful if you just want to save a little bit of time. Okay, next up, we're going to edit some typography. Now, this text has been outlined, so it's technically more like a shape and an object rather than text. But for any kind of people that work with creative logos or anything with fun type, and you just want to make something look a little bit unique than just this regular font, we're going to use the Puppet Warp tool. Now, quickly, I just want to talk about this little magnifying glass. This is how I find any tool that I use. You can obviously find it here in your toolbar, but to be honest, I just find it a bit overwhelming with how much stuff is there. So the Puppet Warp tool is here on my toolbar, but I normally just like to type it in and I find it that way. Now, the Puppet Warp tool basically just adjusts any shape in a really fun way. So if I just click, as you can see, this S is now adjusting and it kind of warps and it's a little bit forgiving to kind of what you're doing. Obviously, if you pull it like this, it's going to look terrible. You can really just adjust your type in a little fun way. You can obviously extend letters as well, just by clicking and pulling. Obviously, this is not looking too fantastic, but this just really shows what you can do with it. Also, what is really fun is you can rotate your text like this. Obviously, you want to make sure that the kerning looks good and the spacing. But yeah, that's the Puppet Warp tool. It's a really fun way just to kind of customize your text, make it have a little bit more character. And what's great is you can also do it with illustrations. So I've got this nice dancer here. I'm going to make sure it's selected and then click on the Puppet Warp tool. And yeah, if I wanted to manually change her arm and maybe have it coming out this way instead, it would take a long time to manually draw it myself. But if I just click with the Puppet Warp tool and then just drag, and now her arm is in a completely different position. Maybe I want to raise her hand up a little bit. I can do that. Obviously you don't want to go really extreme because then it starts to kind of warp and make things look funny. You can make really nice, subtle adjustments in a few clicks, and it just saves you from drawing it again manually. So yeah, that's the pop-up warp tool. Next one is a really fun one. This is the touch type tool. Now, some of you might already know about this, but I think it's just really important to know. Now, as we know, we have live text, and then we can also outline text as well, just by going to type, create outlines. And now I can't change these letters anymore. I can't change this H to a G or an F or whatever, because it's now acting like a shape. So if I've got this live text here, but I still want to adjust it, I still want to play around with it. If I long hold on the type tool and then go down to touch type, which is Shift and T, I can now do some fun things. So I'm just gonna zoom in a tiny bit more if I'm allowed, there we go. And I can move my letters around. Something you could definitely not do just with the standard tool, type tool. I can also rotate it. I can make them bigger. I can really do whatever I want with it. Now, this is where the magic happens. If I go back to my type tool, I can still adjust the text. I can write in anything I want. I can write my name if I want. And that's the magic of the touch type tool. You can do so much with your text, but it's still live. You can still adjust it, type in anything different that you want to do if you want to go back and change something. Yeah, touch type tool. Use it and love it. I'm obsessed. So I'm not someone that's obsessed and knows all the keyboard shortcuts in the world. I sometimes see some designers doing everything on their keyboard and like barely use their mouse, and it is amazing, but that will never be me. I don't know if it is you, but these keyboard shortcuts are just ones that are very handy to know and just speed up your process. So I've got some live text here. I'm just gonna select it all by pressing Command A. I think we all know the Command A one. Now, if I want to change the spacing, all I do is hold the Option key on Mac, Alt if you're on Windows, and then just press the arrows left and right, and it will make it tighter or wider. If I press up and down, it'll obviously do the same, but going up and down. Really handy, it just stops me from going over here and adjusting, just saves a little bit of time. Bonus trick as well, if you hold Command and Shift, Control obviously if you're on Windows, and then these little arrow brackets, I don't know the correct word for them, I apologize. If I find out what it is, I will pop it up on screen, and then press left or right on them. It changes the size of your text as well. Just a handy way to adjust your text very quickly, very easily. So here's another keyboard shortcut that I found out only a couple of weeks ago. I posted it online and people went a little bit crazy over it. It is so simple and it saves you about half a second, but it's still fun. So if I want to change the alignment of this live body text here, I would obviously go to my paragraph settings and click centered, right aligned, anything like that. But if you hold Command Shift, and then if you press the letter C for centered, letter L for left aligned, or the letter R for right aligned. It's that easy. It's really handy if you want to quickly see how some text looks aligned in different ways. Instead of going up here all the time and wasting 1 second, you can do it that way with a keyboard shortcut. So, align to a key object time. Now, this trick is going a little bit viral on social media. I see some creators posting about it, and all the comments are saying, oh my God, I didn't know about this. Why have I not used this sooner? So yeah, still people don't know about it. So I want to include it here. I learned this trick when I worked for a beauty brand and I was doing a lot of product packaging, and I needed to make sure that everything was aligned beautifully, everything was kind of centered on the box. So what you're going to do is have your live text here. You're going to hold Shift, click. We all know how to kind of select two objects at once. But then I'm going to let go of Shift and click again. And now, as you can see, this is a live key object. So I've got this kind of highlighted section going on. Now, if I go to my alignment panel, if you don't have that, just go to Window, Align, and then I can align something just that easily, just by clicking that, making sure this is a key object. This text will now align to that. Just to show it in a more extreme way, I'm going to select both, let go of Shift, click again to make this a key object, and then I'm going to align it again, and this perfectly aligns. Now, alarm bells are probably going off for some people that are experts here. So you don't want to align text actually if it is live text that you can edit, because basically it is aligning to this whole text box, not actually, where the text stops and starts. So if you want to make sure to align something perfectly, once you're happy with the text and it's all 100%, create outlines first and then go to align it, because that will just make it a lot more accurate. Yeah, good to know. Okay, last up in our typography section. the shear tool. Now, if you want some text and you wanted to slightly slant to the left, to the right, I'm doing a hand movement, but you can't actually see me. But your text doesn't have the italic option. I use the shear tool. So again, I'm going back to my handy little magnifying glass, typing in shear to find it, shear tool. There you go, it was hiding my taskbar over here. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the shear tool is a little bit crazy. If you just click, it can kind of go a little wild. So I'd say just be a little bit subtle with it. So what I want to do is just click and slightly move my mouse, just a little bit. And now your text is leaning to one side. You could obviously go this way as well if you want. And I know probably typographers are freaking out that I'm adjusting their type like this, but it works for me. It's handy if I just want to make something have a little bit of personality with a little bit of a lean to it. I use the shear tool. Okay, we're getting into the illustration section now. Typography's over. This is where it gets really fun. So I have this lovely shape here. Doesn't have to be this particular shape. It can be any illustration you have. Now, if I wanted to draw inside this, maybe add some shading or some dots, anything like that, I would obviously just do it like this. Say I wanted to add some kind of grid into it. Now, it would be really annoying because I would have to do a clipping mask to have these bits inside. So I'm gonna copy that object from the back, paste it in place, select all these lines I've done, and then create a clipping mask by pressing Command and 7. That's a little bit annoying, takes a little bit of time. There's a better way to do it. So if we just go all the way back, so I have this shape selected. Now, let me introduce you to these little objects down here. If you hover over it, one says draw inside. I know. So we're gonna select my lovely pencil tool there, make sure it's selected. And now, look, it draws inside the shape. I don't have to do any sort of manual clipping mask. I can do whatever I want and it just stays inside this shape. It is incredible. And now when I come out of that draw inside mode and I can move it around and it all stays inside. It's so handy and people went absolutely wild for it when I found out about it and shared it online. Okay, this is a fun one that I learned about fairly recently and it's just a really great way to have this kind of color gradient made for you. Instead of you trying to make these gradients manually, say I want it to go from this light green color all the way to black, I would maybe have to guess and, I don't know, move this color picker down, doing like this. And obviously it's just gonna take a while, not look that great. But we can use something called the blend tool. So if I select both objects, go up to object, all the way down to blend, first we're gonna click on blend options. Now I want to say specified steps. 50 is too high. I'm gonna do maybe, let's say 4 for now. Click OK. You would think when you click OK, this is when the magic would happen, but no, you have to go back into the blend and then click make. And now I have this nice little kind of gradient color swatch of my green going from light green here, neon green, whatever you want to call it, all the way to black. Really fun, right? Most people don't use the blend tool for that reason, but it's just a really handy way to come up with some nice color options. And keeping with the blend tool, you can actually do some really fun things by repeating shapes as well. So if we go back all the way to blend options, if we do specified steps, but let's just do, yeah, a fun number like, let's do 15, not too much, not too little. And then again, do the same thing as we did before, click blend and make. And look, it now kind of repeats these objects. So instead of you doing manually, it's just really handy. Obviously this is kind of a weird technique to show, but believe me, if you do it with type, it can be really, really fun. So for example, I have two lovely pieces of text here. I'm gonna select both, all the way to blend, click make, and look at that. That's really fun, right? You've got this kind of 3D blended text starting from small, going up to big. And then you can really have fun here. Like you can adjust these colors and make them black to make it look really bold, like a big outline. Yeah, you can really go crazy with this technique. I love it. That's the blend tool. Whoa, okay, we're moving along. We've done some really great stuff so far, but we're gonna carry on. I hope you're still with me. So if you want to change the corners of a shape, say you've got the square here, you know you've got these little circles here. There's probably a technical name for them. I'm not someone that's gonna tell you what the technical name is. That will never be me. But as you can see, you can make a square into a circle or just a square with rounded edges. But did you know there is different techniques if you use the Alt key, Option obviously on Mac. So for example, if I drag this into a circle, but then click on the Option key, it'll do that, a little kind of star shape. Again, I'm going to show you different techniques. If I click twice, I've now got this diamond shape. So yeah, now you have different options. You can do this kind of star shape, a diamond, or your regular circle. So yeah, anytime you're changing the corners, just think about pressing the Option key just to try something completely different. Really create some fun, unique opportunities for you there. Okay, we're moving on to some gradient techniques. I'd say I'm not the biggest fan of working with gradients in Illustrator. I find it just a little bit complicated and long-winded to do simple things, but this one is a really nice handy trick. So if you don't know how to get your gradient window up, obviously we just go to Window and then scroll all the way down to Gradient. Now I've got this nice kind of a wobbly line and my color gradient goes from green all the way to blue and it's kind of just stretching from left to right. But what if I wanted to have the gradient kind of follow the line, just so it looks a little bit more considered and unique? We have these different options available to us. They're grayed out right now, but first, make sure that your stroke is selected over here. Now, as you can see, we've got these options available to us. So right now, we just have it on the standard setting. But if I click on this one, this says Apply Gradient along the stroke. Now, this is one I really love. You can see the gradient now is going from light green and it's following the line. As you can see here, it's darker here than it is here. So it almost creates this kind of 3D dimension. It looks really nice, right? You've got this kind of light blue, this kind of more greeny one here. And then the final option you have here is this one, where it kind of makes the gradient go from like top to the bottom of the line, which just looks really beautiful. If you had like loads of different colors in your gradient, say you pick loads of colors here, it looks really fun. There's kind of like a whole strip running all the way through it. So yeah, gradient stroke options, I feel like not a lot of people work with them and use them or do it in like a manual way. But yeah, just use these stroke options here. Next up is something that I think we've all struggled with and we've never really bothered to figure out why it happens. So if I have a nice shape here and I want to blur it, I go to Effect, Blur. How do we pronounce this? I'm going to say Gaussian blur. Gaussian? I'm going to say Gaussian. And then I blur it. And as you can see, I've got this hideous box. It is not smoothly feathered and it's always bugged me. I've never known why it does that. But I bothered to search into it the other day and I found out why. So if we select this again, but if we go to Effect, Document Raster Effect Settings, now, all we've got to do is just increase these pixels here. So I'm going to do 200. Let's just be really generous with it. 200. Now, if we go to Effect, Blur, Gaussian blur, please tell me in the comments what this actually is. And then now look, I can blur it and I don't have that hideous, ugly box. Look at the difference. Now you're probably thinking, wow, look at this apple. Doesn't it look absolutely terrible? Callum, you're so untalented. You would be right, it does look terrible, but for the purpose of this video, I want it to look terrible. So as you can see, there is tons of points here, loads, like it really looks dreadful. And there is an easier way. I could obviously just manually kind of delete these points and then have to smooth things out. But if we wanted to clean this up in a nice automatic way, there is a better way of doing it where you basically just simplify it. So all I'm going to do is right click and then go all the way down to simplify. And then, as you can see, it's selected all these points and already taken them away. I can just adjust this to make it more simple. As you can see, it's getting rid of all the anchor points. If I have it down here, there's more. So yeah, just by doing this, it simplifies my illustration. And then obviously it still looks a bit rough. So I can go to Object, Path, Smooth. These really work hand in hand together. And then smooth out my shape. And just like that, I look like a talented illustration. I wasn't just doing that freehand on a trackpad. I drawn it, scanned it in, because it just looks that beautiful. Now this is a super quick one I learned the other day. Obviously we use the pencil tool to draw anything, but obviously if you're like me and got a shaky hand, when you're trying to draw a straight line, it's just not going to look that great. Obviously, with the help of my smooth settings, it looks better than it was. But if we put it down to accurate and I try and draw a straight line again, look at that, just dreadful. But here is a fix. If you hold the Alt Option key and then just drag, and as you can see, it's kind of like using the line tool. And now when I let go, it is a straight line. Really handy, right? And while we're here, let's just talk about the eraser tool. I feel like when you're doing illustrations, eraser tools kind of go in hand with that. So again, I'm going to use my handy little search bar. So if I want to erase something, I could obviously do it manually like this. But if I want to be a little bit more accurate, if I hold Shift when I click, it does a straight line. Really handy if you just want to make sure you cut something really perfectly, and then you can delete this section here. And if you hold Alt or Option key and drag, it now creates this kind of square box rectangle eraser. So I can just drag like this and it erases anything that was in that box. Really handy. The eraser tool is something you should get handy with because it's really helpful to be really speedy with it and more accurate. Right, we've made it to the handy tool sections. Maybe there'll be a little jingle for this section. Now I'm just going to draw an absolutely beautiful heart. I feel like it's only a month away from Valentine's at the time of recording. But now, as you can see, I haven't connected it there. I've obviously not been very accurate. It's very annoying. I could obviously use the direct selection tool and try and bring it over. Oh, look at that. Doesn't that look beautiful? Or I could just completely redraw it and try and connect it. But there's a better way. Obviously, this is the handy tool section. So again, instead of going to look through my toolbar here, I'm just going to type it in, the join tool. Now, it's pretty much explained in the name. All I'm going to do is just circle the section I want to join, and look, it joined. Can you believe it? The join tool joins things. There you go. Super handy to know when you're illustrating and you zoom in and see something isn't connected. It's just really handy. Now, you might be thinking this is going to look a little bit similar to the blend tool, which we covered earlier, but believe me, it is completely different. So I have this lovely shape here, and what if I wanted to repeat it lots of times to make some, I don't know, nice funky pattern? If you hold Alt or Option, you can duplicate and drag things, but that is not what we're covering. So I have my singular shape here, and I want to talk about the repeat tool. So as you can see, you have these options here. I'm going to quickly cover all of them. So radial is really handy because it's in the name. You can kind of do this circular radial repeat, and you have these kind of little nodes, dials. Don't know what the technical name is for it. Not sure that's important. You can increase the numbers of stars in your pattern. You can make it tighter, wider, just like that. Really handy. Now that was a radial one. Let's move this more into the center because that was bothering me. Going back down to repeat, we now have grid. So again, it's in the name. You can do a grid. You can adjust how you want it to look. You can also make this a little bit wider so it's actually nicer to look at. And there we go. That's the grid tool. You can make some really nice repeat patterns super easily with it. And finally, the mirror tool. So many people have been asking for this, and I feel like I used to do it a different way to this. I don't know if this is an update, but before I used to have to kind of draw a line in the center, make it so it would reflect off that. Yeah, horrible. But this is the easier way to do it. So all you do is click mirror, and now as you can see, you've got this line here. So anything you do will just be mirrored across. So if you want something to look really accurate, you don't have to kind of guess where you have to copy and paste things. Yeah, just use that. And when you go out of it, you've got it nicely repeated. Okay, I'm really excited to talk about this one because when it was originally launched, this tool, I posted a video on social media about it, and I think it got over 1 million views. And everyone was like, oh my God, I've been asking this for so long. It was added to Adobe Illustrator Beta, but then it was removed and everyone panicked. Everyone sent me messages, was like, I can't find it. And I was like, oh God, people are gonna think I'm lying. But it is back in the 2024 latest update. So you have it here, it's called the Dimension tool. So if you have some product packaging here, when you're sending stuff to printers, I normally had to kind of draw a little line and then I would have to measure what this was. I would normally draw like a box, find out the size of what it was by looking in here. Normally, if I was doing packaging, it would say centimeters, not pixels. Very frustrating. So actually, I'm going to change my document setup quickly now so it helps show the point. Let's make it to say centimeters. So instead of manually measuring it, drawing a line, putting a text box here to say how long this is for my printer, using the dimension tool, all I do is just, let's zoom in, just click and drag out. And look, it automatically says what my measurements are. It says this is 200 millimeters, 20 centimeters from here to here. Like, this is so handy. This is so automatic. I don't have to do it manually. And you can do it on anything. I can drag from any point and it says the measurements. Seriously, your printers will thank you, everyone will thank you, people that you're showing your work to and they want to know what size something is, you can just quickly do this and they can see it and they don't have to send you an email asking you questions. I love it. Thank you, Adobe Illustrator, for bringing this tool. I know some people are saying, oh, it's been on other programs for a long time, but I use Adobe Illustrator, you guys use Adobe Illustrator, so to have this on here, I'm very thankful. Okay, we're powering on. We've ticked off a lot of really fun, exciting tools and tricks. This one is also really great. So I have two lovely shapes here, but what if I wanted it to look a little bit more 3D, dimensional? I wanted to have it layered, a little bit more fancy. I could obviously do that manually. Everything I talk about today, I could probably do manually, but we just want to speed things up. So if I have both objects selected here, I'm going to go up to Object, and then go all the way down to intertwine and then edit. So I've now got this kind of little lasso kind of tool looking thing. I'm just going to circle the shape which I want to intertwine, overlap, whatever you want to call it. And look, can you see now? This shape is on kind of two different layers. If I did this manually, it would take a little bit of time. I would have to kind of cut things up and move things around. But yeah, it's that handy. I'm just going to do it again on this point here. Look at that. Now I've kind of got this intertwined shape. Just really, really handy. I love it. I think it's fairly new. I think intertwine tool came up maybe 6 months ago. I still need to remind myself that it exists, but when I use it, it always blows my mind because it just makes life so much easier. Okay, this is the last one on the handy tools section. Don't be sad, we've still got some really fun sections to come, but I'm going to be talking about the width tool. So I have this nice line that I've drawn earlier, and I'm going to select the width tool just here. If you press Shift W to bring it up, and as you can see, that kind of little preview window there shows what it does. I can just select a point and increase the width. I can kind of go anywhere. Let's say if we go around the center. And as you can see, you can do like really nice things. Instead of using the pencil tool to kind of draw these shapes, you can just start with a line and just really play around with the width tool. You can just make some really unique shapes just like that. I also like doing it with type as well. So if I'm just gonna write something in here, these L's look horrible. Let's just adjust this. So say I like these kind of nice kicks and flicks. I'm gonna quickly draw one myself using the pencil tool. Let's say we want it to come off the O here. Make sure this is smoothed out real quick just so it looks better. There we go. Let's just say that is perfect for now. Now, if I want to kind of do these nice little flicks and things, I can do that with the width tool. So I'm just gonna make this section wider, go down a little bit, and make it thinner. Oh, and as you can see, that already looks a bit too intense. But yeah, it's really just playing around with the width and thickness until it looks how you want it to look. I'm gonna make that a little bit tighter there, maybe this a little bit, and then this bit here a little bit thinner. And there you go. Look, I've now got this kind of nice, fun little kick. Obviously, I've done this very fast, so it doesn't look exactly like these two just yet, but that is kind of the gist of the width tool. You can really have some fun with just a simple line and make it look a lot more fun and well-rounded. Well-rounded, is that a term? I'm gonna say well-rounded. This looks well-rounded to me. Maybe it doesn't for you, but I'm running with that term. Okay, wow, we've made it to the pink section, which maybe is the most exciting of them all. I have a black box here, and I have a white stroked box here. Now, if I want to make this white stroked box this color, I could do it in many ways, but I always just like to use the eyedropper tool. But every time I click, it copies this whole format. So now I haven't got a stroke, it is basically just a twin of this one. Very annoying, but I found out a fix recently, and when I told people about it, it blew people's mind. So all you do is make sure that your stroke is highlighted and selected. You don't want the fill one to be on the top. And then all I'm going to do is go over to the color that I want to pick, hold Shift, then click, and look, it just copies the color. It hasn't filled it in with black. It hasn't just made this their twin. It is just copying the color. So hold Shift. It's really brilliant. When I talked about it online, I think probably a year ago, people went wild for it, and there's good reason to, because yeah, that always bugged me so much that it would just completely copy everything. So hold Shift. So we have some lovely grouped objects here, and I just realized it's kind of giving Squid Games. That's not intentional. I think I just watched the show recently and I'm kind of obsessed with these colors right now. So if I want to adjust this nice little star here, I want to change it up, but everything is grouped. So if I want to select it, I have to kind of click a million times. I don't know if my microphone is picking up the amount of times I'm clicking there, but I think that was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, because everything has just been grouped many times over. So now I can move it around, I can come out of that, and yeah, it's fine. It still stays grouped, but it's just a bit annoying. So I want to show you something that is so good, it blew my mind. I've been using Illustrator for probably 10 years now, and I only recently found out about it, and I was like, why is this not written on the box when you get Adobe Illustrator? Because it's really handy. So if you go to your direct selection tool, long click, and then you get an option here called Group Selection Tool. And yes, it's in the name. Any grouped object, you want to be using the Group Selection Tool. So all you want to do is just go to your grouped objects and then just click. And that's it. You just click once and you can move it around, adjust it however you like. Then when you go out of it, everything is still grouped. So when you're using this tool, everything is acting like it's not grouped, when in reality, they are. Bonus trick, I love to throw in some bonus tricks as well. When you're just selecting anything like this, if you hold the Command key or Control on Windows, you can now use the group selection tool that way. So I'm holding Command and moving it around, holding Command, moving it around, but then when I go to select all of them, they're still grouped. It's amazing, right? It literally saves so much time. Okay, wow, I'm actually really loving this pink. So next trick is very handy for speeding up your workflow when you've finished your project, you've finished your design, is all about asset export. Now to bring up this window, you just need to go to Window and then all the way down to Asset Export here. Now, this is where the magic is really, really happening. So if I want to export all these separate sections of the logo, I would normally drag them all out and then maybe make an artboard for each one and then export it that way. But what I can do with this little box here is just drag it in and it automatically creates an asset. I can drag this in and it creates an asset. And then I can go to select all my different options and then export. Really, really handy. So if I select everything here, I don't have to do all these separate things manually. If my object is ungrouped, I can just drag it in and look, it separates everything ready for exporting. Yeah, really handy. And obviously if your object is completely grouped, your design is grouped together, when you drag it in, it will just do this one shape here. So yeah, either ungroup it or group it depending on what you want to achieve. But yeah, that's the asset export. It's really, really handy. I really love it. I don't know if this is going to be a bonus tip on top of a bonus tip, but if you have anything selected and then right click and go all the way down to export selection, it also exports that way. So there's two ways of doing it. I prefer the first way, but you can also do it this way as well. It depends what you prefer. Okay, just a few silly ones now. If you're using the arc tool, this one just here, it's probably underneath your line segment tool. When you're drawing the line, if you want to flip that around, you could obviously do it manually by going to transform, reflect, or rotate, anything like that. But if you just draw it, if you press the F key, it'll flip it. Yep, really simple. It's not going to change the world, but I always find it handy when I need to use the arc tool. Also, when I go to draw a star using the star tool, you're probably wondering how I've got so many points on this, because normally it's a star with maybe 5 points. But if you just press the arrow keys, like I'm pressing up and down right now, it increases or decreases the amount of points. So you can even do a triangle if you want. While we're on some kind of fun tips and tricks, I just want to say, if you hold the space bar, you can actually move around your windows and artboards so much faster, because you can obviously scroll on a trackpad, but yeah, your wrist is going to ache after a while. So just hold the space bar and just click and drag, and you can move around so much faster. Another quick one as well, if we've got loads of artboards going on and I want to work on this object, but you know, I'm too lazy to zoom in and scroll and all that kind of stuff, all I do is just press Command or Control on Windows and the number 0, and it will fit the artboard to my screen, just like that. Okay, enough silly ones. This one is actually really, really handy. If you're someone that wants to display your logos in a nice way, or just display anything in a nice kind of aligned, uniform way. So I've got these lovely C's here, and if I want to increase the size, say I want actually the C's to look like this in the box, doing this manually would be really annoying. I would have to, you know, copy and paste, drag them all in. If I wanted to try and size them all up together, that is a whole other story. So let me just quickly select all of these. And then if I drag them, obviously they're now outside the box and I can't actually get them to fit in. And it's just a mess, really annoying. So there's a better way to do it. If you go up to Object, Transform, and then go down to Transform Each. That was a really long keyboard shortcut. Can we just look at that a second? I'm not even going to be able to speak that out loud, but yeah. Now, all we do is just type in how much bigger or smaller we want it to be. So let me say we want them to go smaller to about 80%. I'm going to make sure this is also clicked on so that they all adjust are the same and don't distort and look weird. And now look at that. Did you see they change the size? Let me do something more extreme so you can really see the difference. There we go. And it's all centered, all perfect. Let's do something a little bit bigger so you can really see the difference. And look at that. That is how you adjust them each and keep everything aligned to how you started off with in the first place. I absolutely love this. It's really handy for kind of web design or anything where you want to display lots of different things all in a nice aligned way. Okay, can you believe we're in the last section? We're on the home stretch. I hope you're still with me and I haven't bored you to death and you found this actually useful. So this one I'm going to call quality of life. It's going to be pretty quick, pretty easy, these tips, but I find them really handy in my day-to-day work. So trim view, I have these lovely shapes that are overlapping my artboard. If I wanted to kind of see how this looks trimmed, I used to grab my box, let's find here, rectangle tool, and then basically use the eyedropper tool to make it look this gray background and cover up what is outside the artboard. And I was like, there we go, it's trimmed. I can now see what things look like. But let me show you, if you go to view, you have something called trim view. Just click it, and there you go. You can now see how your artwork is looking just inside your artboard. So when you go to print, you'll know exactly how it's going to look like. Now, have you ever pressed Command Z a million times and you go back because you want to go back to a different state you're in? Let's go over here and see. I'm going to hit a limit soon where I can't go back anymore. I'm pressing Command Z and nothing's happening because I've run out of undos. So if we go back over here, now, if I got to my Illustrator preferences, it might look different on Windows, but for Mac, I just click on the Illustrator name here, preferences, and then go all the way down to performance. I can see that my history states are at 50, so I can only go back 50 times. Now, if I can increase this to 200 if I want. So when I'm pressing Command Z again, I can keep going back like many, many times. Now, I would say as a word of warning that the more history states you have, I think it uses more space, RAM, memory. I don't know, I'm not technical, but basically it's remembering so much more of your actions. So your Illustrator might go a little bit slow. It depends what computer you're on. So just a word of warning, the higher the number, it might make your Illustrator a little bit slower. I have no problem on my MacBook. I think my MacBook's from like 2018. But yeah, maybe older computers might not like it, but it is really handy if you always want to go back to previous things you've done. Yeah, just increase that number. Okay, another one we're going to adjust Illustrator's preferences. Have you ever had something that's stroked? As you can see, it's quite a big stroke. This is 100 points. When I move it down into a smaller shape, it looks dreadful. Like you can't even see that it's a shape in there because the stroke has just not adjusted, not scaled properly. It's very, very annoying, but there is an easy fix for that. So again, go into your preferences. Instead of going down to performance this time, you want to use the general tab. And then you've got a lot of options here, but you want to look for the scale, strokes, and effects and click it on. And then now, when I make something smaller, you can see my stroke is adjusting with the sizing I'm doing. So we're not getting this really like bulky stroke. It's just perfectly scaling to exactly what I need. Really handy and always good to know. Okay, I'm really enjoying this section just because I find these not really spoke about before, and it's just really enjoyable to help with these kind of annoying things in Adobe Illustrator. So I'm just pulling out some guides here. If I wanted to trim them like I've done here, so it's not overlapping, it's not going on all these other artboards, which is just really annoying when you have lots going on, I can use the scissor tool if I want. So I'm just going to type in here instead of going searching for it in my toolbar. All I do is just click these points where I want the scissor tool to cut, like so, and then use the direct selection tool to delete the points. This obviously works, as you can see, but I found a better way to do it. So I'm just going to remove all my guides. So all I'm going to do is hold Shift and O, and that will select my artboard. Now, when I go to drag my guides in, look, it automatically just crops inside the artboard. And you'd think when I come out of this selected artboard that the guides would shoot off again, but no, it keeps it all inside. Really handy to know. So anytime you are using guides and you don't want them to kind of cross over to anything else you're working on, yeah, just make sure that your artboard is selected. And a quick bonus tip, because you know by now after watching this video, I love lots of bonus tips. You can make anything a guide. So I'm just gonna draw something random here, just like that. As you can see, it is just a white object. But if I press Command 5, that is now a guide. Don't ask me why you'd want to turn anything into a guide, but it's just something you can do if you want to. Right, this one is going out to anyone that doesn't have a double screen. I normally work just on my MacBook in a million different locations, and I don't have a double screen all the time. But it is a little bit annoying if I've constantly got to zoom in to look at all the details and then zoom out to kind of see it from a different perspective. So there's a little fix to make your Adobe Illustrator kind of have a double screen. So if you go to Window and then click New Window, and then we want to go to Arrange, Tile. And now you've got these two windows going on. So I can zoom in here, but then have this one maybe zoomed out. And then anything I do here is reflected over on this side. So I can really be super accurate, change something I want here, and then I can keep on looking to see how it looks from a different perspective. I absolutely love this. I'm obviously not going to design constantly in this way, but if I'm doing something that I need to see it from different angles, different perspectives, you always want to make sure your designs look good from far away and up close. This is just really handy if you don't have another screen. Okay, 2 left, and I've saved some really good ones for the end. Now, I have these lovely designs going on with a font that I found recently. I really like the way it looks. Maybe it can be for the back of a business card or something. But then when I'm hovering my mouse over, I suddenly notice I've got kind of these weird unused shapes from when I've done some sketches before or just tried out something else. And when I go to highlight everything, I've got other things here too, like unfilled shapes, some text boxes that I've not used, and it's just a bit of a mess. But there is a way to quickly clean it up. If you go into your objects and then down to path and then clean up. Now this little box comes up where I can make sure that stray points are deleted, unpainted objects, which we have here, or empty text path. And I've got an empty text path here, another one there. So I just click OK, and it cleans it up. So now I know that anything on my artboard is things I'm actually using and needing, and there's not some random objects hiding in the background. Okay, we've made it to the last one. I hope you're still with me. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful, and there's been some tips and tricks that you didn't know about before. If you knew all of them already, I'm so sorry. I'm glad this is free so you didn't waste your money. So I like to make sure my objects are nicely spaced out in the correct way, that they're all even. The gap here is even to this one. Now, you could, of course, eyeball it. I'm not going to trust myself with that. I will definitely get it wrong. But most people use the lovely box technique that is trusted by many. We all love it. Basically, you just draw a measuring box and then you duplicate it and then move your shape to fit it and then delete the boxes. But as we all know, sometimes you forget that this box is here and you might leave it on the artwork, and that is a nightmare when you've sent it to print or something. But there is a better way to do it. Let me show you. So let me just make these not look very aligned so it shows how it works. So I'm going to select all my objects and then go to the Align panel here. I'm going to click this little thing here called the Align to Key Object. Now, we spoke about key objects before, earlier in the video. This works a little bit differently. So now I'm just going to type in a number here. I'm going to do maybe 5 and then click this one here, horizontal distribute space. And look, it now has automatically aligned and spaced out 100% correct. I didn't have to use any boxes. Let me just show you one more time. So I've clicked this little key object box here, 5 centimeters. Let's do something even smaller, like 1 centimeter, and then click here. And look at that, your shapes are nicely spaced out, and there's no scariness that you've forgot to delete a measuring box anywhere. And that's it. You guys asked for it and I provided. I hope you found it useful. I hope there were some gems in there that you didn't know about and you've taken some notes and you've learned something from this. Obviously this course is completely free. I don't ask anything from you guys. Just it'd be really handy if you share this with someone, let someone know about this course. I just want to build up a nice creative community. That's all I ask for. And that's it. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can obviously send me a message on Instagram or you can email me. I'm kind of contactable in many places. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you soon. Bye.